First section, executive session, bills and communication, meeting minutes, April 25th, 2017. A motion?
Mr. Chairman, I was not at that meeting, but I listened to the tape, so I can vote on all the items, and I'll move to approve the minutes.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Barrett, second by Commissioner...
Francis.
Second that? Francis, sorry. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? Minutes are approved.
Just wanted to note, Mr. Chairman, for the record, that Commissioner Ford will be sitting for Commissioner Wagner this evening.
Okay, and
And we're expecting Mr. Kennelly, so we'll see.
we'll wait for the next section. Okay, building communications, this is B. Mr. Wendt, if you'd like to take this over.
Yeah, I'm really happy to introduce you. I shared Emmeline Harrigan as our started on board with us last Monday, May 1st, as Assistant Planning Director. I provided her resume to you via email. I'm very pleased to have her on board. She's bringing a lot of energy to our department. I think she's going to be a great asset for us, and you will definitely be hearing more from her in the months to come. So,
Thank you, and we welcome you. And you got pretty big shoes to fill, but I'm sure you'll be fine.
Thank you so much. I'm very excited.
Great. Next item, 100 Nepis Road. Request for Robert Cardello to allow asphalt curbing in lieu of concrete for a two-lot subdivision in an R3 zone.
okay, Mr. Chairman, this was a two-lot subdivision approved on March 28th, fairly recently. Concrete curbs were required because this is in an R3 zone. And you saw in your packet the applicants requesting asphalt curbs in lieu of concrete. You've got a note from the engineering department as well. There really aren't any existing concrete curbs in the neighborhood. Many of the streets in the neighborhood don't have any curbs at all, and what curbs there are asphalt, so it's more in keeping with what's out there in the neighborhood to go with asphalt, and that's what the recommendation of the engineering department is.
Okay. Anybody like to make a motion on this one?
A motion to approve, Mr. Chair.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Kennelly. Second by Commissioner Noonan. Any discussion on this? Is that one on?
I concur with staff and with the report we received. I think it's reasonable to go ahead with the, not requiring the concrete in this case.
Commissioner Barrett?
Yeah, I mean, I normally always like to stick to our regulations as far as curb and sidewalks, but if it's deemed by engineering that this is adequate in this case, I think asphalt makes sense, but the regulations do call for concrete, but here where everything else is asphalt, I think it's okay.
Commissioner Noonan, anything to add?
Just to follow the recommendation of the engineering department.
Michaelis, anything? Board all good? Okay, ready to vote? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion is approved unanimously. Next section, closed executive session to discuss pending litigation regarding 1613-1645 Black Rock Turnpike.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, you need a two-thirds vote to enter into closed executive.
I'll make a motion to enter into closed session, Mr. Chairman.
Motion by Commissioner Kennelly. Second by Commissioner Noonan. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? We're in executive session. Made and no votes were taken. I need a motion to go back into executive session.
I'll make a motion to go back into executive session.
Kennelly.
Second.
Second by Commissioner McAleese. Okay. I guess we're going to add an item to the agenda. We'll call this 1E. And to discuss litigation regarding 1613-1614 Black Rock Turnpike.
Do we have to add that first, or motion to add?
No, you already had a two-thirds vote to discuss it, so I think you're fine.
No, I'd like to make a motion to approve the recommendation of the town attorney with respect to the appeal of 1613-1643 Black Rock Turnpike. 1645 Black Rock Turnpike.
Do I have a...
Specify which appeal it is. You know, it's, what's the guy's name? It's the applicant's.
Oh,
Yeah, the
that's
applicant,
applicant.
yeah,
Excuse me.
please.
And to be more specific, the applicant's appeal of 1613-1645 Black Rock Turnpike.
Okay, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Commissioner Barrett. Any discussion? No? All those in favor? Aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Carried unanimously. Next item, new applications to recommend to public hearing. Zoning regulation amendment, application of Fairfield Theater LLC to amend section 30.2 of the zoning regulations to exempt theaters from a 1,500-foot cafe permit offset.
Okay, this application centers on the theaters down at BJ's wanted to have a liquor permit for their customers. They are just under 1,500 feet from the Grey Goose Cafe, door to door. They applied for a variance, which was denied, so they are seeking an amendment. We currently permit restaurant-type permits to be next door to each other. We require a 1,500-foot offset for cafe permits. They're looking for an exemption for that to apply to for-profit theaters, because the state does not have a separate liquor permit category for theaters, so they classify them as cafe permits. So they're looking to amend the regulations to allow a theater permit within 1,500 feet of another cafe permit.
Okay. Do we have a motion to recommend to public hearing?
Move to recommend a public hearing.
Motion by Commissioner Noonan, second.
Second it, Mr. Chairman.
Second by Commissioner Kennelly. Any comments, discussion? Ready to vote? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Item is carried unanimously and moved to public hearing. Next item, 238-284 Linwood Avenue, special exception application of Linwood Avenue 1, 2, and 3 LLC pertaining to establishing an automotive repair business in an existing building in the designed industrial district.
This parcel is towards the far end of Linwood Avenue, and for many years was the home of McGoldrick Fuel Company. No new buildings are proposed. There is the applicant wishes to, McGoldrick Fuel is no longer in business there. They're looking to use the existing buildings for an automotive repair facility. It does require a special exception.
Okay, do we have a motion to move to public hearing?
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Francis, second by Commissioner
Second.
Noonan. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Carried unanimously. Next, we go to old business. We're going to be carrying these all together, or let's...
Yeah, I was going to make a motion, if that's okay?
Sure.
I was going to make a motion on items 2A, B, and C to table those items, if that be possible, Mr. Chairman. I don't know if that's
Okay,
okay.
we'll have a motion on, regarding the zoning regulation amendment, and 185 Thorpe Street is to be tabled. Is there a second? Second by Commissioner Barrett. Any discussion? No?
No, I'm just saying, I mean, the chairman's not here.
Yeah.
It was an extensive application.
Yeah, I was going to say, yeah. The chairman had a family emergency tonight, and I think this is a application there where all of us regular commissioners should be involved in, especially the chairman. So I agree with tabling this motion. Any other discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Carried unanimously. Item's been tabled. Next item, 479 Westway Road. Request of Attorney Raymond Rizzio for a review of revised plan for consistency with previously approved special permit for a 16-unit residential development, design residential district. Public hearing was 4/25/17. Present were Alessi, Francis, Kennelly, McAleese, Noonan, Wagner, Cochran, and Ford.
And I watched the video.
Okay, great. So everybody here tonight is up to date.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, this is the TPZ, this commission approved a 16-unit condominium development for this site in October of 2006. In April of 2016, this commission settled an appeal regarding the denial of an extension of that special permit for the development by agreeing to extend this permit 30 months to October of 2018. The applicant agreed as part of that to provide 2 affordable units out of the 16 as a condition of the extension. And the applicant presented detailed plans that now show how they wish to revise the project. It's the same number of units, reducing the size of the proposed units substantial lot coverage and floor area ratio reduction in the 20% reduction in impervious area. In February of this year, the Conservation Commission made a similar finding. They looked at similar plans and made a finding that it was consistent with the previously approved application and didn't warrant a new application. And the applicant is asking you to make a similar finding. So the choice here is either to agree that the plans are consistent and don't warrant a new application, or that a new application is required here.
Okay, great. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve, Mr. Chairman.
Motion by Commissioner Kelly to approve.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Noonan.
Mr. Chairman, we have here a situation in which we're actually going to have a lesser amount of lot coverage, we're going to have less impermeable surface area. Inland Wetlands did believe that this was consistent with its previous approval because we're going down in size. Additionally, there's the bonus of time passing and our regulations changing and their willingness to include the affordable units in this proposal. So my view is that we can make a finding that this is consistent with the past approval rather than go through the public hearing process again. That's my take.
Okay. Commissioner Noonan.
I concur. They updated their traffic reports for affordable housing as well. I concur with Commissioner Kennelly. They updated their traffic reports. Everything seemed to be consistent. Some changes that actually seem to favor, as far as the decrease in size and stuff. I find it to be consistent with the previous application.
Anybody else?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I'm actually okay with this also. I actually recall the original application, and I voted against it 11 years ago. But I would say that I find the same thing, though. The finding is the plan consistent with the approved application? It is. It's better. It's, less coverage, better units, affordable housing component as consistent with the new regulations. So in terms of what we're asked to find, I concur.
Yeah, I agree. I like the new plans that they decided. They came out with a lot less density. Traffic's not an issue. Aesthetically, I think they're fantastic looking. So I don't see any issues with this one as well. Okay, ready to vote? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Item is carried unanimously. Next item, 104-116 Fisk Street, special permit application of Ash Creek Holdings LLC for additions and alterations to an existing industrial building, Design Industrial District. Public hearing was 4/25/17. Present were Alessi, Francis, Kennelly, McAleese, Noonan, Wagner, Corcoran, and Ford. And Commissioner Barrett, you're up to date on this one?
Yes, I am.
Okay, fantastic.
Okay, this Fisk Street is a kind of a small street that runs north-south between Commerce Drive and the Turnpike. And for many years, this site has been a contractor storage yard for Munson Builders. The new buyer is also a contractor, landscaping contractor, looking to make improvements to the building with an addition. There was a variance granted in December for side and street setback for dormering a portion of the front of the building, but not changing the existing footprint. There's new concrete driveway aprons, curbing, and sidewalk proposed. If you're inclined to approve this application, in addition to a bond for the site improvements, we'd recommend a requirement that they file a property consolidation map, which is something that they propose to do at the hearing. That's all I have at this point.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion by Commissioner Kennelly. Second? Commissioner Ford, second. Commissioner Kennelly?
I drove by today. Anything that kind of is new investment over there that, improves things a bit is, it makes good sense. I thought looking at the plans, looked all, looked reasonable. It's going to add some massing there, but, it'll be an improvement. So for that reason, and, I'm fine with it. And since it's my motion, I'm comfortable with the map, the consolidation as suggested by the applicant and recommended by staff.
So your condition is a property consolidation map to go with. Okay. So that's the condition, okay. Ford, anything to add? Anybody else have anything to add? Okay, so the motion is to approve with the condition of a property consolidation map at the, I guess, the time of submittal? Is that how you want us?
Yeah, they'll need to record it on land records prior to issuing the building permit, but that's,
All right, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Carried unanimously. Compliances, 222 Post Road, compliance application of Natina Sonsoem to establish outdoor dining at an existing restaurant, design commercial district.
okay. This has been tabled a couple times. You now have a kind of a revised sketch. The concerns that were expressed when this was last discussed because of the columns on the overhang. It's kind of tight quarters here, so you wanted to make sure there was 3 foot clear from each column and still 4 feet of sidewalk between the whatever barricade they're using there in the curb face, so people walking along that arcade storefront don't have to step out into the parking lot to get by.
Motion approved by Commissioner Francis. Is
I'll
there a
second.
Second by Commissioner Kennelly. Any discussion?
This is, I appreciate the revised drawing, and it all seems to meet our specifications, and there's enough walk space on the outside, which is what we were concerned about.
Commissioner Kennelly, you have anything to add?
No, I agree.
Commissioner McAleese?
My only concern, I do appreciate the corrected drawing. I think it needs further correction or clarification. I just want to be sure that the 3 foot mark over on the left side, it's drawn to the center line of the flower pots, which would mean in reality it's probably like 2'10", and I think the clarification I would want is it has to be ADA accessible. So I think it's a 3 foot minimum. It has to be 3 foot clear to any obstruction so that a wheelchair can pass that point. The way it is there, you'd clip the corner of those planters or whatever they are that they're putting in as their fencing. Aside from that, I think it's a fine plan and good luck to them.
I assume, Mr. Chairman, the motion includes the standard conditions for any outdoor dining with the 1-year recertification, no outdoor music and sound system, tables and chairs being removed in the off-season.
I was going to bring that up and discuss that if we want to make this a 1-year approval, but I guess we don't have to because we recertify every year anyway.
We do. If you're going to make this as part, that's the standard routine that each year we review that list.
So we can make this a trial run and see how it works out and then revisit it again next year.
Correct.
Quick question, they've got to be ADA compliant ultimately, right? That if they set something up that has an issue like this,
Yeah,
they have
the
a
key
problem?
is-
In other words, they don't need to bring us another map.
No,
If this
no.
is unclear, they need to, when they execute it, they have to execute it to ADA standards.
Correct. We'll make sure when they implement it that there's 3 foot clear, as Commissioner McAleese says.
So I think the condition of approval would be that it is ADA compliant with a minimum of 3 foot. Is it part of the regs?
It's not part of the zoning code, but it's part of the building code, so we'll make sure they've got the 3 foot clear.
Okay, so the motion is to approve. All those in favor? Aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Item carries. Next item, 238 Post Road, compliance application of eye-level signs for a new ground sign, design commercial district.
This property at 222-238 Post Road has an existing low-level monument sign. Their tenants want additional coverage, so they're proposing to replace the existing sign with a compliant sign that's 50 square feet, set back the required 25 feet from the street line. The minimum letter height they're showing which our regulations require for 4-lane configuration with a 35-mile-an-hour posted speed limit is 10-inch minimum. That's what they're showing. If I would recommend conditions that the existing sign be removed and that only the copy can illuminate. That's what it says on their application, but I would back that up with conditions and that all copy be a minimum 10 inches. I think it's going to be somewhat of a challenge for them to get all the text in there for all the tenants, but we permit a maximum of 50 square feet with a 10-inch letter, and that's what they're proposing.
Have a motion to discuss this?
Make a motion to approve.
Motion by Commissioner Kennelly, second. Second by Commissioner McAleese.
I'm fine with approving as long as we adopt the conditions as stated by staff.
I just have a question for staff.
Go ahead.
Just to clarify what you were just talking about, Mr. Wendt, so in the photo we're seeing, you're talking about them removing the sign that says Post Road Plaza, Avis Budget.
Correct.
And having just that one new sign.
Yep.
And instead of it all being one light with black letters, it would be black, but the letters would be what were illuminated.
They propose in their narrative, they can treat it so when it's illuminated, only the copy illuminates, not the
Right.
background. That's what our regulations require, that's what they say they can do.
Yeah, because this sample looks like the opposite.
Yeah, black with a white background, but they
Right.
can even, there's ways, I mean, if it's, they could do it in different colors, as long as the background remains opaque, they're in compliance.
Are there any other signs on this property, maybe on like a different entrance that's on the other side or anything like that, or is it?
No, the only sign, the only monument sign that's out there is the one you see in the
Is the
picture.
Plaza or Avis Budget sign?
Yeah, the two buildings share that one common driveway.
Okay. Anybody else have any comments, questions? So the motion is to approve with the following conditions that all existing signs on the pole signs, monument signs, be removed from the property, all copy be no more than 10 inches, and the copy be illuminated. Is that what we're looking?
No less than 10 inches.
No less than 10 inches,
And only the copy
be
illuminated.
illuminated.
Correct.
We're all in good agreement with that?
I'm sorry, I have one more question. Because now, I just want to be sure, because 222 is the building on the right, so this does include 238 and 268 as well. It's both buildings, all the
Correct.
tenants in both buildings. Okay. Then, yeah, I'm in agreement with what you said.
All right, we have a motion to approve. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Item carries unanimously. Do you need to reconfigure or?
I just need to move Mike.
Good. Public hearing. Next item on the agenda is 1537, 1557 Stratfield Road, request of SLD Development, Second LLC, to consider plan revisions to resolve pending litigation regarding a proposed assisted living facility in the R3 zone.
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, for the record, my name's Bill Fitzpatrick. I'm an attorney in Fairfield with the law firm of Fitzpatrick, Frey & Bologna. We have offices at 1735 Post Road. I'm here this evening representing the contract purchaser of the real property located at 1537 and 1571 Stratfield Road. That is SLD Development 2 LLC. What is transpiring before the commission tonight is a limited public hearing, as I understand it, to outline for the commission's benefit plan revisions that have been offered as part of an effort to resolve pending litigation. I would like to briefly outline for the benefit of the commission the chronology that brings us where we are today, and I emphasize briefly. In July of 2016, the applicant applied to the P&Z for a special exception to use the premises at 1537 and 1571 Stratfield Road as an assisted living facility. This property is zoned Residence R3, and the zoning regulations permit an assisted living facility in the zone subject to special exception approval. The regulations further, in section 27.4.9, outline in a detailed fashion the restrictions applicable to an assisted living facility. These restrictions relate to lot area, required lot area is 4 acres, unit density, no greater than 16 units per acre, and height. A height of 3 stories or 40 feet, whichever is less, is permitted. Commission conducted several public hearings. Subsequently, on September 20, there was a suggestion to come back with a beefed-up landscaping plan. At the October 25th public hearing, the revised landscape plan was provided, and subsequently on November 15, 2016, the Commission conducted an additional public hearing session devoted exclusively to the issue of landscaping. On December 13, 2016, the Commission denied the application without prejudice. The applicant took an appeal from this denial to the Superior Court. That administrative appeal remains pending at this point. Subsequent to the Commission denial, I received a call from a representative of the Stratfield Village Association expressing concern over the denial and the possible future development on the property. I referred that person to my client. My client, who will speak next, Mr. Mark DePeckel, and he can confirm the nature of his discussions with the Neighborhood Association. Before I introduce the various speakers, I'd like to confirm that we are limiting the discussion before the Commission to the specific plan revisions that have been made to address the concerns expressed by the Commission in the course of the public hearings and the executive session, decision-making session, those being predominantly height, architectural design, and landscaping. To reiterate, before I introduce the speakers, the point of this presentation to the Commission is to outline for the benefit of the Commission these specific changes that have been made in the areas I just outlined, and to go through the material that's been presented to the Commission on those issues and those issues alone. At this point, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to introduce Mr. Mark DePeckel, the principal of SLD Development 2 LLC, the special exception applicant.
Attorney
Mark.
Fitzpatrick, before you do,
Yes.
I'd just like to make it perfectly clear that we are just discussing the revisions of the plans tonight, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, and whatever took place between your client and the Stratfield Association has nothing to do with the zoning commission?
That's correct, other than for us to let you know that we've engaged in a dialogue in an effort to come
That's
up with a
fine.
plan that makes sense to both the neighborhood and the Commission.
That's fine, okay.
Can I ask a question about that
Sure,
limitation?
go ahead.
So, well, just so I'm clear, is that to say then that anyone who was at party to any of these public meetings that neighbors attended, and if they heard things about other plans for this site that might encourage folks to be publicly supportive, they can't raise that here in this hearing? I'm just trying to understand before, I don't know.
Well, I think the public hearing and the application tonight is going to be based on the new plans that we received and the new landscaping plan that we received, and I want to keep it limited to just that. I mean, as far as, there was no issues as far as traffic or anything else that goes on, that went on.
Mr. DePeckel.
Good evening. My name is Mark DePeckel, Principal of Senior Living Development, LLC, and applicant for the project. First, I'd like to thank the Commission for the opportunity to present our enhanced plans for the proposed assisted living community on this site and their consideration of the same. I would also like to thank the leadership of the Stratfield Village Association, Dylan O'Connor and James McCuskey. I was pleasantly surprised when they contacted me back in December to try to arrive at a mutually agreeable project after our application was denied and we appealed. Since that time, we've met several times and spent an enormous amount of time arriving at a project both they and us are pleased with. Their proactive and positive approach was to work with us to mitigate some of the concerns many of the neighbors had regarding the size of the building and the screening. While we had previously designed a project that we believed was exceptional in design and character, along with abundant screening, the leadership requested we go further. The result was to drop the height of the building by over 10% and make it look like a 2.5-story building rather than 3 stories. The screening was enhanced by planting 20-foot-high pines immediately upon construction. Other architectural improvements were made, which the architect will describe and show shortly. This collaborative working arrangement resulted in a proposed settlement reflecting the needs and wishes of the community, and, while at a sizable cost to the developer, is all part of the give and take to create a beautiful neighborhood and a town asset all can be proud of. By working with and getting to know Dylan and James, I have admired their passion and desire to make the Stratfield area of Fairfield a better, more beautiful place to live. This proposed settlement contributes to the vision of making Stratfield a better place to live and is an example of how solutions can be achieved by working collaboratively between developers and the community. Thank you for your consideration of this proposal.
Thank you, Mark. At this point, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to introduce Mr. Charles Heath, an architect with Sunrise Living, the entity which will own and manage this assisted living facility, if approved by the commission. Chuck.
Good evening. I'm Chuck Heath. I'm here representing Sunrise Senior Living. It's a pleasure to be back in Fairfield. I've been meeting with a number of the neighbors through the last couple of years, and been a wonderful experience working with everyone to bring this project together. As you're aware, we've been working very closely with the community on the design of this building for some time. Although we believed the fruit of our efforts was a very appropriate building which fit well into its surroundings, the board did not agree. So, therefore, after listening to the board and to the community, we've gone back to the drawing board and made several significant, powerful, and costly changes to the design. Changes which I believe you will agree bring the scale of the building much closer to that of its neighbors. Our goal has always been, and continues to be, to enhance the neighborhood and improve the built environment with a building which appears as though it has always been a part of the neighborhood. While we believe we did this in the original building, we believe the new design does this even more so. The changes we have made include a reduction in the overall building height, as mentioned earlier, of around a little over 4 feet, 4 foot 2 inches, to the average building height. That's over 10% of what the previous building was. That's a significant amount of height. Some of the height came out of the first floor, which is where we have our common areas, but we're going to find a way to kind of work around that and make that still be glorious space, take some space there. Some of the other height came out of the roof. The most significant part of this, however, is that in lowering the roof ridge height, it also lowered our eave lines, which allowed us then to create this 2.5-story look. And that is going to be a huge change in the effect of the look of the building. Going from the continuous eave line above the windows to bringing that eave line down, having dormers, makes a significant change in the look of the building, make it much more residential, much more in the character of the neighborhood. The other changes which will affect the appearance of the building are the color. We've changed from a gray color to a warm scheme, believing that would be much more appreciated by the neighborhood and would fit in better to the nice green surroundings around us. The augmented landscape, which Mr. Kennedy will address in a few minutes, is designed to bring larger plant material to the front of the site. And we've also been able to identify a local supplier who's able to provide much larger trees than we had anticipated before. So that'll also help enhance this. The screening and the larger trees will help make the building feel like it's been there a long, long time, which is our interest. The Sunrise principle of design for our buildings is that they look like they've always been in the neighborhood, that they've always been a part of where they are. Now you may ask yourself, why didn't they do this earlier? Well, we thought we had. We have designed a number of 3-story buildings, just like the one we had before, which have won a lot of awards around from different neighborhoods, and a lot of people have mentioned how well they fit into their neighborhoods. That's always been our goal. We've been very successful at achieving that in the past, and we believe we would have been here as well. We've also done 2.5-story buildings like the one we're proposing now. And this building, at 2.5 stories, will also be a very successful building. The reality is that they'll both look great. But if the neighbors would like something that's a little bit more in scale their homes, we've been able to achieve that here. I believe that at the end we'll all agree that this will be a much better site than what it is today, that it's an improvement, and just appreciate your time to listen to us now this evening. I would like to take a minute to just look at a few of the architectural illustrations that you have in front of you as well. I'm not going to go through all of them because there's like 17 boards, but to illustrate the point, you can see in this architectural drawing, which is just a technical drawing, so it's kind of hard in black and white, but you can see that we have lowered the height of the building at 4 feet 2 inches is a significant number. It's easy to see, even from the back of the room, that this has been dropped. the thing that's not as easy to see is how this eave line has also come down and created the dormers. You can also note that where we had tall gables, we have made those hips and pushed that back and brought that eave line down as well, so that the majority of the eave line has also come down 4 feet. And so that's allowed us then to create a much more interesting building, much more in character with neighbors. Now, this is one illustration of one of the views as you're looking up Stratfield Road. And you can see the previous design versus the redesign. How two things have happened. One, we're including larger plant material, so the building is being screened better. And then you'll also notice that this eave line is kicked back and how that just fits right in so much nicer than it did before. Same thing in the distance. You can see how the doors here allow a much more interesting articulation, a much more residential scale than the flat eave line that we had before. Similar in the view, another view that we have here, you can see it illustrates that gable end even better. Put this on. You can see here how this also, by kicking this back, how much smaller that elevation looks. It really looks like it's a little more than a two-story building. So these are the kinds of changes that we have made. I can get more boards if that's of interest, but we filmed this around all sides of the building to bring this down, make it fit better into its context. I think now it really does fit very nicely, much more than it did before. Really great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chuck. At this point, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to introduce Mr. William Kenny, a principal in William Kenny Associates. Bill Kenny is a soil scientist, a professional wetland scientist, and a landscape architect. William.
Good evening. I'm Bill Kenny, the principal of William Kenny Associates with an office here in Fairfield. What I'd like to do is just review briefly with you what the proposal was at the last time that we were before you in November, and then describe the current proposal. When we were last before you, we had done a substantial increase in the amount of screening that was proposed for the building. We had approximately, the original proposal had just 10 evergreen trees across the front of the building, and then we increased that by 46 trees to really give you a layered look and a continuous look. Several layers of evergreen trees and right across the front and staggered to give an irregular look. Also, within that planting were flowering trees and shade trees, so there was quite a density of vegetation between the road and the proposed building, and I believe that was, my recollection is that was very well received by your board, and we appreciate that. The plan before you this evening is the same layout, the same quantity, but we've taken 16 of those trees and taken them from 10 to 12 feet in size. So we had 56 trees that were 10 to 12 feet in size, evergreen trees, and now we've taken 16 of those and raised those to 20 feet in size. So, and those have been positioned, again, across the full width of the front.
So
So
your
they're
original planting is going to be 20 foot.
10 to 12.
10 to 12.
When we were last before you, so
Right.
56 at 10 to 12.
Right.
And tonight we have 40 at 10 to 12 and 16 more at 20.
At time of planting.
At time of planting, correct. So some very substantial in quantity and size.
Commissioner Canelli?
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Kenny, if you're getting paid for all this testimony, you should really, kick something back here. It's amazing, because I don't think we've ever had a landscape architect who's been the center of everything, so good for you. I mean, seriously, it's like unbelievable on any project, so don't worry, by the end, everybody will be in a tree house or something, but no. What I wanted to ask you, though, is this. Very early on, a member of the public who seemed pretty smart, I forget who the gentleman was, but he was a longtime resident, and I think he may have been connected to development. When we talked about landscaping, he kind of put a pox on that, saying that you have to be careful because road salts and things can affect these plantings. So my question to you is, I am very grateful and very pleased to hear about these changes. In your expert opinion, with so many large trees, they're going through the trauma of being placed here.
Right.
Should we be concerned at all? This is great that you're doing it. Are there things that, as conditions of approval, not hopefully too expensive, but things we might suggest or things that the town could do to help ensure that you're putting so many mature, big plantings here that we could put in that you think makes sense, either by the owner or by things the town can do in terms of its maintenance of right-of-ways and things that might make sure that these trees last, being so big and so many of them coming into this new space? Just a thought. I don't know if you can...
Certainly, it's a very valid concern, but being a state road,
Right.
the
Oh, I see what you're saying. Right,
town
because
has
of flicking
less
on.
control.
Right.
But there are things you can do, and we will be incorporating those into the specifications for the planting. One being, so salt has an impact. We're using primarily trees that are more tolerant to the salt. And then by adding things such as making the topsoil higher in organic material, so we'll be increasing the organic content, which helps buffer that salt impact. We'll have an irrigation system, so you want to flush the soils very good early in the spring to help remove any salt that might be in the soil as the plants start to grow in the spring. And then there's other treatments you can do to help mitigate the salt, as well as if there does appear to be a problem, they can put up barriers such as a fencing, a temporary fencing in the winter to help block that if that is found to be a problem. So with you might have seen where people use burlap to protect certain plants. And lastly, we also have the plants are set back a fair distance from the road, so they're close, but we did move.
in near the building in a way, on the other side of the sidewalk is, right?
They're beyond the sidewalk. That's right. That's right. That's right.
Commissioner Barrett?
Yeah. Mr. Kenny, I thank you also. Yeah, I don't recall an application ever where we saw so much of the landscape architect. I just want to understand, like, the tools, because this is impressive, I agree, landscaping, size and quantities increased. Just the tool you use to, could you just talk about, like, some of the assumptions you made? Do the trees here represent, like, everything that's on the plan? Are they the same? How do you go from here to here and just trying to get us comfortable with the fact that if we're looking at this,
Sure.
It's not just a rendering.
Right.
It's going to be, have some confidence that this
Sure.
is what it's look like in the summer 5 years from now,
Sure.
in the winter, and not just, that was.
So I am only a small part of those beautiful renderings. So we worked closely with a company that does these every day, all day. And we provided them with the growth rates of the trees, the size of the trees, position. So we provide them with the positions, and then we work with the elevations of the land, and they work out the angles. They set up a three-dimensional model in a digital format, and they're able to then put in the size of the plants, and it's very, very realistic and accurate. And we work closely together to achieve that product.
Based on the actual landscaping plan of what we would approve and what's going to
Yes.
be built.
Yes.
This is what it's going to grow.
Right. Exactly.
Mr. Chairman, question? I don't know who would take care of this, but could we perhaps switch the boards out so we're seeing the final version of the ones with the...
The revised.
Yeah, the revised set with the whatever you want to call it, the life cycle of the plantings? Thank you. Yeah, not the gray, obviously, yeah.
Compared to each, big.
Only if you have, I'm sorry, I thought you had them out. I didn't mean to have you go dig them out. There I go, being painted.
We have some. These, the two on the left are the... Right. As you're traveling north...
So those are some of those 20-foot trees you're talking about, dead ahead, right there, yeah.
And then here's some others right here. So this is almost straight across. This is from the southeast. This is from the north. looking back southwest.
That's terrific, that's plenty, I don't need any more. Yeah, it's nice to see, I want the public to see.
Commissioner Francis?
I too would like to commend you for the improved design and the improved landscaping. And I'm glad to hear that the neighbors are supportive now. It's really come a long way, and I thank you.
Thank you.
There's nothing further from Mr. Kenny, our new rock star. Mr. Chairman, at this point, I'd like to sum up what you've heard from the experts presenting tonight. Primary concerns expressed by the commission in the course of its denial, at least as I heard them, related to architectural design, height, and landscaping. Those in turn are encapsulated in the harmony with the neighborhood argument. The nature of the use cannot be argued as not being in harmony with the neighborhood, inasmuch as the present use of the property as synagogue is an institutional use. Property is uniquely suited for institutional use inasmuch as it's got a substantial town property to the south and a 2.5-acre wooded area which will remain conservation easement open space to the west. The applicant has revised its plans, as you heard from Chuck Heath, in a manner which reduces the height by an excess of 4 feet, which again is in excess of 10%. The design was changed to lower the perception of height as well, and various other architectural changes were made in an effort to minimize the visual impact of the building, including changing the color to softer tones, making it more harmonious with the residential character. In addition, as you heard from Mr. Kenny, the applicant is installing 16 20-foot high white pine evergreens, which will further shield, if you will, the building visually. This is in an effort to address concerns expressed by some neighbors in a comprehensive manner. For the reasons you've heard in the expert testimony, as well as the plans before you, the proposal here, I believe, addresses the varied concerns expressed by some neighbors and some commission members in a comprehensive fashion and is well worthy of being approved by this commission as a settlement of pending litigation. The applicant and the experts will be happy to answer any other questions the commission may have. I would reserve, Mr. Chairman, the right for rebuttal, if possible.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Anybody have any questions at this time? No? Well, before we get to public comment, I'm going to request a 3-minute recess real quick, okay? We're in recess. Anything to say pertaining to the changes that have been made, and I'd like to kind of limit our discussion to that tonight. Come up to the mic, just state your name and address, and after the public is done speaking tonight, Attorney Fitzpatrick will offer a rebuttal if he chooses so. So, come on up, just state your name and address.
Good evening, and thank you for the opportunity to address the board. My name is Dave Shamilia, and I live on Stratfield Road across the street from the proposed facility. Last year, I urged the board to reject the applicant's original plan on the grounds that the development as proposed would have a negative impact on the surrounding neighborhood. And to that end, I applaud the board's 6-1 decision to deny the application based on section 27.4.1 of the regulations, noting the size and height of the building is not in harmony nor conforms with the character of the neighborhood. In fact, there were lengthy discussions around landscaping around this behemoth project. And it makes one pause and question if you have to hide something from the surrounding neighborhood and passersby, is it appropriate to construct such a building in that neighborhood in the first place? And he responded with an astounding no. I and my like-minded neighbors are not opposed to the development of the site. It is recognized that the synagogue has a desire to sell the property. And we acknowledge the right of someone to come along and develop the site. It's all part of the evolutionary process. But it must be done in a manner that takes into consideration the surrounding neighbors. This site will be developed. We know that. But regulating the issues is the purpose of this panel, and it's a difficult job, and for one, I appreciate your service to the community. In the panel's denial of the first application, it left open options for the applicant to present a plan that would be acceptable. But again, the developer has not taken the board's intent to heart. The new design is still not compliant with 27.4.1 in my eyes. In fact, very little has changed. It is still too large, and moreover, it is not in harmony nor conforms with the character of the neighborhood. And there's still discussions on how to try to hide it behind trees. Basically, what we have is a developer who has a subjective interpretation of the rules. According to published reports, this developer said they have filed suit appealing the board's original denial, citing only one reason given for denial of the application. And it doesn't matter whether it was one reason or 20. Any court in the state would support the decision this panel made based on the established rules. A major concern my neighbors have is with the developer and their lack of social consciousness. While they claimed early on they wanted to be good neighbors, their actions have proven otherwise. They have filed suit against our town for their decision, and then there's a discussion with the Stratfield Village Association, which, by the way, does not speak for me. They continue their intimidation and scare tactics by threatening to build a 6-story affordable housing high-rise site on the site if they do not get their way. This is no doubt what led to the discussion between the SBA and the developer to support this alternative plan. In return for physical and financial support to the SBA, which reeks of quid pro quo, or if not worse. It is this body, not the developer, that decides what gets built in this town, unless it is overruled by a higher legal authority. For the record, I had originally signed the SBA petition lending support to this new plan during the community meeting a few months back, but after hearing more and more of what was being said, and after some reflecting and looking at the changes, I notified the SBA that I was withdrawing my support. And it was during this meeting that wrong and misleading information was and still is being provided to the community in order to get them to support and sign the petition. It was even argued with me by a petitioner that the synagogue was already sold, and either an assisted living facility would be built on the site or the high-rise affordable housing. And here are some of the details that were shared with the community by the SBA. That the developer would donate 3 acres behind the building to open space and install walking trails. The SBA says it would essentially be expanding Owen Fish Park. Now, there's already 2.3 acre conservation easement behind the proposed building on the books, which means no development of any kind, as it is a designated wetland space. And I believe there would be fencing preventing access from the park to the proposed development grounds. So I don't know where the developer is coming up with this extra space, unless they plan to violate the agreement they have with the Conservation Commission. They've also said that the developer would design artist renderings and a master plan for renovation and beautification of the Stratfield Village Four Corners, as well as a financial commitment to streetscape these improvements and beautification plans. I think this would be a function of this body. They would also renovate the existing bathrooms and installation of the new toddler playground.
Excuse me, if I may. I'd like to keep the comments tonight regarding the new changes that have been made.
Okay,
Whatever.
But the point I'm getting at?
Excuse me for 1 second. Whatever has been done between the developer and that has not the concern of ours. The TPZ is deciding the matter based on our new renderings, our new height requirements, and that's what we're going to focus our discussions on.
But they have come out and said, we have support of the SBA. I'm trying to tell you why the SBA is supporting that.
We have nothing to do with the... Listen,
They're saying there's
Mr.
over
Shmila.
$100,000 in cash
Mr. Shmila.
and services that would be spent by the applicant.
Excuse me, sir. I'm
That's
asking you
quid
for the
pro
last
quo.
time. I am not privy to those discussions. This board is not...
So ask it
Are
of
you
the
going to
panel.
continue to interrupt me?
You walked down on me last time. You walked down on me last time.
Because you were acting in a racist and rude manner.
Oh, I was
am
not
going to tolerate those
I
arguments.
take offense to that.
Sir, you're out of line.
I
I'm
take
chairing this
offense to
meeting,
that.
and if you're going to interrupt me, I'm going to have to ask you to sit down. You're welcome to make comments here tonight, but they're going to be focused on what our discussions are here tonight. This commission is not involved with any negotiations that have taken place with a developer, or SBA, or residents, or anything like that. That's not what we're here to discuss tonight. We're here to discuss tonight the changes that have been made to the building, as well as the landscaping plans. That's what we're going to limit our focus to discussion to tonight, okay?
But the developer made the point that the SBA and the community is in support. This is
We do
why.
not have that on record here.
They said it. It was
We do
mentioned.
not have that on record.
It was, Mr. Fitzpatrick mentioned it at the onset.
Okay, then you said that they don't have the support. That's fine.
They don't. And I'm
Okay.
just explaining why. And you need to look into why before you render a decision based on this and based on what
We're
was said.
basing our decisions based on what was presented tonight. That is what's on the record tonight.
You are off base, I'm sorry.
Excuse me?
And with that, I'm done.
Thank you.
Have a
Mr. Chairman,
pleasant
I just ask one question of you.
Go ahead.
I guess the question I would ask, Mr. Chairman, is simply this. It would appear that, to be clear to anyone who's attending this evening in the public hearing, that any of these kinds of off-site discussions that don't deal specifically with the changes to this application that we're looking at tonight to evaluate for our decision, any of those business that the community, that may have influenced the community in their decisions to come up and speak to us or anything else, they're obviously not going to be able to talk about that, but they have to understand that that's not part of the scope of what we do here. We're not enforcing any of those, if there is something out there that they're thinking of, that isn't, only conditions that are appropriate under our rules and that are considered are ones that we have anything to do with. We're not enforcing, and that's why we can't listen to these kinds of things. Is that correct, Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Just
Now,
wanted to-
Commissioner Barrett, go ahead.
Could I say, we have a record here, Commissioner Chairman, I'm sorry. And I mean, maybe you're going to actually probably answer my questions. But we have a record, so far we've had some documents and some drawings and a presentation and a statement by Attorney Fitzpatrick about SBA support. Maybe we'll hear something tonight from somebody that represents the SBA, but we don't have anything on our records. We don't have a petition. You know, we may have heard some things, but there's nothing in the record. So maybe we'll hear something. That speaker just happened to be the first person to talk, but maybe we'll hear some more information on that. Hopefully not a lot, but.
Right. But, look, Mr. Chairman, and I appreciate your indulgence on this, but we want to make sure that everybody understands this. If anyone is coming before us, I think you would agree, and they're somehow concerned about these issues that the previous speaker talked about, they should understand that that's between the developer and the community. That, we can't base our decisions on that. So if
Exactly
you come
right.
on up here and you want to say, sounds great, it better be based on the application and what you saw. It
Absolutely
better not be on
correct.
anything else, because we're not enforcing that.
Exactly
Thank you.
correct. Thank you.
That doesn't mean we want to shut it out, it's just we can't enforce it. Okay.
And the only point, Mr. Chairman, that I'd like to make is that whatever other discussions, other items there may be, the applicant is not utilizing that with this commission as a justification for the request for settlement of the lawsuit. Our request is based on the facts that you've seen and heard to date.
Very
Thank
good.
you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, good evening. My name is Dylan O'Connor. I am a co-president for the Stratfield Village Association along with James McCusker. We reached out in December after your decision to SLD and Mark DePeckel to hopefully come to a compromise with the plan that was rejected by you back in December. And over the course of several meetings, we came up with some ideas that we thought were good for the community. We subsequently presented those ideas on January 17th of this year to the Stratfield Village Association. So we called a meeting. We had about 80 people attend. We got 57 signatures on that night from the people that attended. And then after that meeting, we sent out a change.org petition to reach a larger audience. And we got about 421 signatures. So all told, we're at about 480 signatures supporting this compromise plan. And, you know, if you read through some of the comments, I'm happy to leave it with you. You'll see that it's pretty consistent where people in the community want to see this because they think it's best for the community. They think it's the best compromise given the circumstances. I think that a lot of people in the neighborhood would love to see Owen Fish Park expanded and make it a green space, but we all know that that's probably not a reality. So given the circumstances that we're facing, I feel confident telling you that the community thinks that this is the best compromise. And although we don't speak for everyone, can't speak for everybody, we feel like we've done it very diplomatically. We have given everybody an opportunity to speak their mind and address why they are either in favor or against this. And with 479 signatures, we feel pretty good that we have a fair representation of the community supporting this compromise plan.
Thank you. Should we submit that into the record?
Hi, I'm going to be real quick. I'm Ron Roberts. I'm probably the neighbor with the most frontage right next to the synagogue. I'm the closest neighbor to the project. And while I give the SVA the benefit of the doubt that they did send an email inviting me to a meeting, I wasn't able to make it to that meeting that night. However, from what I'm understanding is they didn't even contact any of the neighbors that live actually the closest to it, and they don't have my support for it. The thing that I was against originally was if there was windows facing out high up, 3 stories up above all of our backyards, then all of us who are right next to it lose all of our privacy in our yard. So I just wanted to say, because I did hear one of the members of this committee right here state that, oh, it's nice to hear that now all the neighbors are in favor of it. I just wanted to correct the record. That's not true. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Kurt Wayne. I live on Melville Ave on the south side of Owen Fish Park. I'm a practicing architect. I spoke back in December. In a 1931 lecture, famous American architect Frank Lloyd Wright stated, and I paraphrase, "A doctor can bury his mistakes, but an architect can only advise his clients to plant vines." I'll come to the relevance of that in a minute. So, as I said, I spoke briefly at the last hearing, and I expressed concern about the mass, the height, the character of the proposed building, and how it didn't fit in with the neighborhood. I feel that the revised design, as put forth by the developer and the architect, does make strides to allay some of my concerns. As before, the design incorporates some vernacular detailing that's familiar with the character of the neighborhood and within Fairfield. The revised design reduces the overall height of the building, even though it remains 3 stories. The revised placement of the building on the site further back from the road helps to visually diminish the overall mass of the building from the public vantage point from the road. And lastly, they have proposed to plant taller, mature trees to shield the views of the building and property from off-site looking in and from within looking out, which may appease some concerns from some of the adjacent neighbors. In sum, the developer has made some concessions as a future good neighbor to fit into the Stratfield neighborhood. Yet while it will be difficult for some of the people to accept such a large building on this site, they offer to plant vines, or in this case, large trees. In this instance, will help it blend into the neighborhood as if it may have always been there. Thanks.
Thank you.
Hi. My name is James McCusker. I'm co-president of the Stratfield Village Association. You may recall that on 2 other occasions I've spoken before you when this was brought up for discussion. I wasn't a supporter of the design originally. Obviously, after working with Mark and SLD and coming up with a different plan, I am now. I also want to just clarify that one of the reasons why we reached out to Mark when this was originally denied by you is we tried to take a very pragmatic and realistic viewpoint about what could happen to this parcel of land as related to our neighborhood. Now, I agree with everybody else who's been up here. In a perfect world, I'd love to see Owen Fish Park expanded. I'd love to see some of that synagogue turned into a senior center for in the north part of town instead of being down by the beach alone. But we don't live in a perfect world. And the town was never afforded the opportunity to buy the piece of land, and they're not going to be. So as much as I'd like that, it's just not realistic. So we said, all right, it's not going to be an extension of Owen Fish Park. What will go in there? So let's look at it objectively. And of all the options for which it's zoned, this is the best solution. It has the least impact on traffic. It has the least impact on social services. It provides a tax-paying tenant to the town's grand list. And with the changes that they've made, it's much more in keeping with the neighborhood and with the look. So I feel much better about something like this going in now than I did before. And I also feel much better about knowing that this is what's going to go in there. let me remind everybody that if you guys turn this down again, there's still an appeal in court that SLD has. So you may say no again, but it could still go to court, and in an appeal court, they could win, and if they come back, they're probably going to build it as the original plan, not a lowered construction, not the way it is presented today. This represents a compromise, and I think that we need to be pragmatic and realistic about what can go in there. This is the best option available. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Hi, my name is Laura Sidney. I live at 69 Gate Ridge Road. That's in Woodfield Village Condominium Association. Stratfield Road is a busy street. I mean, we have a design residential district down the road. There's stores. I'm in a condo complex. So this site is zoned for commercial use, and I think this is the best use for the space. And certainly as a realtor, I know there is no place for our aging population to go. And we have a lot of seniors and upcoming senior citizens, and there's no place for them to go, and they're being forced out of Fairfield. So there certainly is a need for this type of facility. And I think the developer's done a really good job at making the building fit in with the landscape, as well as the landscaping is beautiful. And I think it's going to blend in very, very nicely. I think they've done the best job they could possibly do, given the parameters they've had to work with. And considering the alternatives, I think this is a really strong proposal. So I'm in support of it.
Thank you very much.
Good evening. My name is Elizabeth Zezima. I live at 160 Fairfield Woods Road. I also represent this district, District 4, on the RTM. I am in favor of this revised proposal. I did share a lot of the concerns of the neighbors in the initial proposal, and I'm very pleased with these results. Mr. Chairman, if I may, through you to the architect, what I'd like to know is what is the exact height in feet from ground level foundation to the highest part of the building? Is that?
I'll allow that.
Okay, thank you.
We made some changes, so. Huh? Yeah.
I mean, clearly it's not just the appearance. I think we do not have a 3-story. Yeah. Well, we don't seem to really have a 3-story building at this moment. Well, while he's doing that, it is the best use of the property. I want to reiterate for the public's edification that certainly we should be grateful to have something that adds to the grand list and that does not place an undue burden on town services. I think we've been assured that the nature of the business in this building will not increase traffic. I don't think to any extent that the neighborhood is going to feel a negative impact on.
Thank you.
Thanks.
We'll get your answer.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
Maximum height, 41 feet roughly, and the previous was a little over 45 feet.
From 45 down to 41. Okay. Anybody else like to make any comments or public comment? Come on up.
Good evening. My name is Kate Corkin, and I live at 42 Argonne Street, which is just adjacent to the synagogue. I feel that I am not a supporter of this facility being built there for many reasons, but in terms of the height, I feel that 3 stories is too high for our neighborhood. I think a 4-foot reduction in the height is not significant in the overall height, and I worked and met many times with the developers, talking to them about possibly considering a two-story facility, and they would never even talk about it. And I felt like we were very reasonable in our discussion and looking at our neighborhood in terms of how it would fit in. I feel like I'm not an expert on the town law, but it's my understanding that an 85-unit facility is beyond what's allowed for the amount of property that they're going to be building on. And I understand that it's still going to be that same number of units. And I guess that's all. But one more thing, like I said, as part of my neighborhood, met with the developers numerous times from early last spring onward, and when the Stratfield Village Association decided to approach them, they never approached the people of the neighborhood who had met so often with the developers, and never asked my opinion or any input from me or many of my other neighbors. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anybody else? Going once? Going twice?
Mr. Chairman, thank you for having me. My name is Megan Ward. I live at 33 Woodside Circle. I've been a longtime community member of approximately 4 square miles between Woodside Circle and about 2 miles north in Easton for most of my childhood and adult life. We recently moved back to Fairfield after living in Maine for about 3 years, and I was excited to see some of the progress that's being made with the Four Corners area of Stratfield. Growing up on Stratfield Road, I lived at 422 Stratfield Road. My husband and I then purchased a home at 508 Stratfield Road, so I have some history living on Stratfield Road. I know that it's a busy road. I know that my parents moved off of the road because of the truck routes and et cetera, which had graced Stratfield Road at that time. I would like to voice my support for the building. I think we've seen what some of the unintended consequences and best intentions have brought to the Stratfield market, a place where I shopped as a child, and I can remember riding my bike down to what we now refer to as the Four Corners to get a slice of pizza with my friends as a 9, 10, 11-year-old. And it's my hope that with this development and other improvements going on into the Four Corners area, that we can revitalize that area once again, so it could be the space in Fairfield that I grew up in, I loved, and that my 7 and 8-year-old can ride their bikes to in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, Attorney Fitzpatrick?
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, the decision of your commission was a denial without prejudice. Denial without prejudice encourages the applicant to modify its plans and return. There were positive remarks at your executive session relative to this application concerning the appropriateness of the use for this site, the need for this use, and recognizing the fact that this property is presently institutional in nature. Rationale for your earlier decision was that the mass and height of the proposal were out of harmony with the neighborhood. The Commission has heard the details of the modifications to this proposal, which directly address the concerns expressed in your decision. The Commission has also heard from the public, including the representatives of the Neighborhood Homeowners Association, the Stratfield Village Association, who I think have made it abundantly clear that the significant majority of the neighborhood homeowners believe that the modified plan is a better, more appropriate plan for this neighborhood. I submit in this case there can be no more relevant evidence on the issue of harmony with the neighborhood than the testimony of the Neighborhood Association, the petition, and the neighbors themselves. Based on the evidence the Commission has received, and for the reasons we've outlined, I believe this settlement proposal is worthy of the support of the Commission. Urge the Commission to oppose this. I should also note in this day and age, it is really a pretty good thing to add a substantial property like this to the tax rolls. I have nothing further.
Oppose this?
Approve.
You want us to approve this, right?
I do, did I say?
You said opposed.
That's a, not a Freudian.
You want to rewind the tape?
Yeah, there's something wrong with the mic. I know, it's over the top, isn't it? Yeah. Extra hour.
See, we're paying attention.
Let me, it's encouraging.
Yeah, okay.
More than one member picked it up. I believe the settlement proposal is worthy of the support of the Plan and Zoning Commission and urge the approval by the commission. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Any questions? No?
Questions?
All right, then I'll close the hearing and take a 2-minute recess. Okay, for those of you that are here, that's going to close the hearing tonight for Stratfield Road. We will not be voting on that tonight, so, I mean, if anybody's here and sticking around for that, that's not going to happen tonight. So I just want to make that clear for everybody. So, now the room empties out. You can go home early. We're going to work late. Okay, next item on the agenda is 5151 Park Avenue, special exception, application of Sacred Heart University pertaining to the construction of an on-campus diner in an R3 zone.
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, for the record, my name is Bill Fitzpatrick. I'm an attorney in the town of Fairfield with the law firm of Fitzpatrick, Frey & Bologna. We have offices at 1735 Post Road. I'm here tonight representing Sacred Heart University, which is, as you know, located at the intersection of Park Avenue and Jefferson Street. University campus contains approximately 60 acres. It is located in the R3 zoning district. The zoning regulations for the R3 district include a university as a permitted use via special exception approval. The application before you tonight requests special exception approval pursuant to Section 27 of the zoning regulations for the construction of the Sacred Heart University Diner in the westerly portion of the main campus, immediately to the northeast of the university football field. The SHU Diner will be located on the site of 3 existing university tennis courts. The proposed diner is a 1-story prefab structure with a full basement to be utilized for dry storage and mechanical systems. The diner will accommodate 110 seats, will be a fully sprinklered building. The diner is designed for the use of the Sacred Heart University community, that is, students and faculty and their guests. The intent is to provide an additional dining amenity for the benefit of the university community. There will be no advertising of the SHU Diner. It is not meant for the public. It is meant for the university students, faculty, and their guests. At this point, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to introduce Mr. Kevin Herrick of Slam Architects of Middletown to outline the specifics of this proposal. Kevin.
Thank you, Bill. As Bill mentioned, I'm Kevin Herrick, a principal with the SLAM Collaborative. We are representing the client here, proposing this project, which is really, its purpose is to diversify the food service offerings on campus for the students, to encourage them to stay on campus. This is what you see on the screen. It literally is a chrome pre-manufactured diner that's would be constructed off-site, delivered and installed on top of a foundation cast in place. It will be serving only the faculty and students of the campus. We're going to click through a few slides. We don't have too many today. As Attorney Fitzpatrick mentioned, you see here the how central it is to the campus. It will not be visible from either Park or Jefferson. And if I zoom into that part of campus, you can see the aforementioned 3 tennis courts that this site will occupy. So I'm going to zoom in one more time. We're going to take over the 3 tennis courts on the right. So you see a before and an after image. So you can see the improvement, significant improvement on the impervious material. You can see from this, this view that is the campus road out in front, an entry plaza with some outdoor seating on occasion that there's some nice weather going on. You see the service area in the back of the diner, a couple of accessible parking spaces located to the west, which is actually up the page in this particular view. Sort of a before and after bird's eye view, the before and the after. The work happening to the left here is some of the site work that's connected to the Bennett project, which was approved last year and is under construction right now.
Excuse me, can I just ask a question?
Sure.
Oh, I don't know who can answer this, but that sort of piano-shaped area at the back is where that rec center is.
That's exactly right.
Last year, right?
That's exactly right, yep. Our hope is that this would actually be constructed in advance of that. This is a pretty quick-moving thing because it is fabricated off-site. So the hope is to get that done this calendar year.
Commissioner Francis.
The handicap parking is back there. Is this the entrance, the front here?
I'm sorry?
Where's the entrance on this one?
To the campus or to the
diner?
To the diner. The entry is.
Pick out thing?
Let me draw right here.
Yeah. So the handicapped person has to go from way back there to there.
Yeah, I mean, that's, you know, that's 100 feet or so. It's not too far. It is level and on grade. We actually, one of the comments we had in our code enforcement meeting, we had flipped the service drive to be further away and the accessible parking closer. There's also a side door right in here that we are planning on being egress only, but it could be made to be accessible as well.
How far is it from home plate to the field, to the fence?
It's
gonna bust a lot of windows?
That's a pretty good poke for a softball player.
Oh, softball, okay, yeah.
Those days are well behind me, but it's a good shot.
All right.
Yeah.
Commissioner Barrett?
Yeah, I have two questions. One,
Sure.
I mean, this is all going to be prefabricated off-site. I've driven through Sacred Heart quite a bit. Is there any issue with just getting something that size through the campus roads back there?
There's not, but that's an excellent question. One of the first things that we had to make sure we could do. Remember, this is this comes in five different sections, actually. So it doesn't come all in this 4,200 square foot building.
Okay,
It comes
but even with the 5 sections.
It's
still-
allowed,
yeah.
5 sections that are allowed to be on the road and, you know, get to this campus, so.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a good question.
I have a quick question. And I have I'm sorry, one other this is more about, I don't know, Mr. Fitzpatrick, you said it's for the students and faculty. Is it exclusively, meaning do you have to swipe in to get there? Like, for instance, if parents are visiting students or people are there for a sporting event, is it a dining option for people that are not students and faculty? Just
It is.
Okay.
The whole idea is to have a student-faculty connection.
Connect, okay.
They will take cash as well, students can pay cash as well.
Okay.
And have other dining venues, so that would be the same case.
Yeah, because, you know, if parents are coming up, it would be hard
Yeah,
to.
if parents come in for a softball game, they can go grab a cup of coffee in the diner or something like that. Okay.
Thank you.
I just have a question about I guess the interplay between the rec center and the diner and the traffic flow. I'm trying to remember, since we don't have it here, I remember there was some kind of a traffic circle down below. Will that all be interconnected with that roadway there? Is that the plan?
I did my best to draw over top of that turnaround that's included. It's about like that. The footprint of the building does follow this sort of tailgating area. So I can't say I'm drawing it exactly to scale, but roughly that's where it happens.
So that road goes into that circle?
That's correct, yeah. That's the lead-in road.
I'm looking at it here. Oh, I see, okay.
Yeah.
Primarily, have walk-in traffic rather than people driving.
Yeah, well, no.
Oh, yeah, there's not, actually, I mean, if you're looking for diner food, people that are looking for diners want to park 5 feet from the front door. You can't do that here, so our guess is that everybody that will come here will be walking, yeah.
I see it in plan here, so I apologize. I understand what's going on. It's
Yeah.
L200. Thank you to Commissioner McAleese for pointing that out to me.
I'm just going to give you sort of an eye-level perspective of the before and the after. So here you are looking at the 3 tennis courts, 3 of the 6, and the before and the after. And then a little bit more on the detail side of things. As was mentioned previously, planning for 110 seats, probably 10 to 12 staff members operating the facility. So the entry point shown here on this rather busy document, but it does show all the seating in the front. It's a pretty traditional layout for those of us that have been in a diner, which I'm guessing is everybody. The elevations that were included in the submission, you can see sort of the idea is that this does harken back to the sort of the 1950s. That's going to be carried on inside, jukeboxes, 50s paraphernalia, things like that. Bill, you'd be more expert in the 1950s in the paraphernalia than I would be, but I'll go to the 60s.
Sensitive topic with this commission.
I'm only a couple years away. And then just to round out the presentation, actually bringing it back to sort of that eye-level perspective, here you are walking up to the facility in the front door in the entry court. Yep. I'm going to click back a couple here. So here is the dumpster. It's actually covered or in a dumpster enclosure. So the truck comes in here, backs in, hauls it away, and off they go. All of those turning radii have been checked by a turning program. So.
The red circle.
Just out of curiosity, is the JP somebody?
Or where it says
important, or is
service
just-
area.
or looks at this point, just to fill this? Is it a big donor or something?
President of the university is Dr. John Patilla.
Oh, okay.
Could be a coincidence.
You could call it a Leslie's.
No, let's not do that.
Thank you, Kevin. Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, I'd like to sum up and conclude. This application was reviewed by the Conservation Department. A certificate of wetlands conformance was issued after review. This proposal was reviewed at a code enforcement meeting. All relevant suggestions were incorporated into the plans. The drainage report for this proposal has been reviewed and approved by Laura Pulley of the Town Engineering Department. You've got an email in your file to that effect. The proposed university diner plans fully satisfy the relevant zoning criteria, including coverage and floor area. The relevant factors for consideration by the commission in reviewing special exception applications are outlined in section 27.4 of the zoning regs. First section states that the proposal shall be in harmony with the appropriate and orderly development of the town and neighborhood and will not discourage the appropriate development and use of adjacent properties. In this matter, the issue of harmony with the town and neighborhood has essentially already been settled. Sacred Heart has existed for several decades, has been recognized by this commission as well as the Town Plan of Conservation and Development. The Town Plan of Conservation and Development, adopted by the P&Z in the year 2000, states that this area includes institutional uses and cites the convalescent facilities in the area, the high school, and the university among the institutional uses in this area. The construction of a signature university amenity is clearly in harmony with both the existing university use and the surrounding neighborhood. The second part of section 27.4.1, that the proposed use not hinder or discourage appropriate development of adjacent property, is satisfied herein that the existing uses adjoining the proposed university property will continue, and as such, there'll be no impediment to appropriate development. 27.4.2 is satisfied since there is adequate access for fire protection, which was confirmed at code. Provision of 27.4.3 relates to traffic. The proposed university diner, servicing as it is existing student population and faculty and their guests, will generate no traffic in and of itself. I have handed out a short letter report compiled by Mr. Michael Galante of Frederick B. Clark and Associates. The point that the report makes is that the proposed university diner will generate no new campus traffic, and that therefore there will be no impact to adjacent streets or intersections due to the proposed diner. 27.5 is satisfied here, as I mentioned earlier, since the presence of the university is acknowledged in the town plan of conservation and development. I believe this record confirms that the all zoning criteria are satisfied. For the reasons I've outlined, I request approval of this application. The experts and I, as well as university representatives who are here with us, will be happy to answer any questions the commission may have.
Anybody have any questions?
Yeah, one, how many employees will you have at your peak time?
10 to 15.
Okay, is there parking for them?
What they'll do is they'll park off-site, in this case at the new West Campus, AKA GE, and then will be shuttled.
The new West Campus is what, the GE? Oh, yeah, I know. No, I thought you meant the Jewish home, but no.
No.
Way off there.
Further west.
And you will shuttle them?
Will.
Okay.
Am I correct, Mr. Izzo? I'm correct.
And the code review sewer, page 2, number 2, something about the sewer line grease traffic, where will it connect after that line?
The WPCA has approved the sewer connection for this project, and the health department will review the grease trap, which will obviously, in a diner, be an integral part of the proposal.
Please.
Mr. Kennelly.
This isn't really a question, but for your client, I just want to say, since they're usually not here when we vote, and for the record, that any of these kinds of efforts that strengthen the university and also has the added effect of keeping the kids on campus is, from my perspective as a commissioner here, always welcome. Anything to do to strengthen the university is great for the town. It's especially welcome when it's more investment on your campus to make it interesting for the kids to be there, because the neighbors like that very much and all. So thank you.
Anybody else?
Thank you very much.
Okay, anybody from the public like to make any comments tonight? Nope. See, no rebuttal? All
No
good?
rebuttal.
Sounds
Thank you
good.
very
Close
much.
the hearing, adjourn the meeting.